Man, I know the whole Cleveland Browns fan base and community is upside down right now with this Todd Monken hire and the Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry dynamic. It seems like Andrew Berry did not get his pick. This was a Jimmy Haslam move. And Jim Schwartz walking away. Jim Schwartz is pissed, guys. And I know that is a major, major topic, but I make things clear here. I'm not a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan. I'm rooting for Shadur. I'm rooting for the Browns because they have Shadur. Okay, I keep it real. I'm honest about that. So when I step back and view this thing, I'm not mad at the Todd Monken thing. Listen, man, I think Todd Monken could do some good things with Shedeur Sanders. Todd Monken has proven to be able to put out good offensive product consistently, and he's not some stubborn dude like Kevin Stefanski. We got to get to the. He done had MVPs, all types of stuff. I think Todd Monken can elevate Shedeur Sanders' game to a whole nother level, and there's an NFL Hall of Famer that believes the same thing. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, and hype the video. Let's get right into things. So, with Todd Monken being hired, we cannot forget this. Who wanted to draft Shedeur Sanders? John Harbaugh, Todd Monken, and the Baltimore Ravens. They did their work on Shedeur Sanders. They wanted to draft him. Todd Monken liked Shedeur Sanders in college. He was a fan of Shadeur's game. He wanted him in Baltimore. Shadur turned down being in Baltimore because he didn't want to be a backup. So that's one thing. We have to look at Todd Monken's track record as an offensive mind. Um, that dude, that old ass quarterback they had at Georgia, Stinson Bennett, was at his best with Todd Monken. I believe he was there with Todd Monken. Jameis was good under Todd Monken. Lamar Jackson won an MVP in Todd Monken because Todd Monken doesn't have a stubborn system. Todd Monken adjusts to what he has, and he's gonna build a system around what Shedeur Sanders does well. And I think this could be a great, great move for Shedeur Sanders. Look, at the end of the day, we don't know if Grant Udinski was interested in Shedeur Sanders being his quarterback. We don't know if Nate Shieldhouse was interested in Shedeur Sanders being his quarterback. But we do know Todd Monken wanted him with the Baltimore Ravens before the draft. Just saying. And you know who else sees it? Hall of Famer, one of the best corners ever, Champ Bailey. We got to get into it. We got to get into what Mary Kay had to say about this whole situation. I do think it's absolutely embarrassing and ridiculous that it seems like the Browns front office did not have things in order with Jim Schwartz. It's kind of like he found out on X or Twitter or whatever. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. But we're going to get into what Hall of Famer Champ Bailey had to say about this pairing with Shedeur.
This was news this morning, Champ. Todd Monken is the Browns head coach earlier.
Yeah.
2 national championships at Georgia as the OC. Knowing Shedeur, what do you make of the fit?
Man, look, this dude is one of the better offensive minds that we've seen in the game. He did it at the college level with my Bulldogs a few years back, won national championships. Then he goes to the Ravens and sort of reinvents how Lamar Jackson plays the game. Look, the guy's obviously an offensive genius. I want to see what he does with a true pocket passer like Shedeur Sanders. So, I think, as long as they get together and start going over what it means to play in his system, I see great things for Shedeur. He's obviously talented enough to play in the league. Now it's just taking this game to the next level.
This was news this morning, Champ. Todd Monken is the Browns head coach earlier. 2 national championships.
They needed to fix the offensive side of the ball. And what they got with this hire was the most qualified offensive guy that they were going to be able to get in the situation that they're in right now to come in here and try to transform this offense. So I think when you look at some of the other candidates, and especially right now with what's happening with Jim, let's say that you hired Nate Shieldhouse and he's never called a play and he's been in the NFL for 2 years and he's never been a coordinator. Who do you think would be better equipped to handle your defensive coordinator walking out the door? A Nate Shieldhouse or a guy with 37 years experience in Todd Monken, who's seen it all, who's been through it all, who's handled difficult personalities, who isn't going to be fazed by adversity. It would have been a tall order to try to hire Nate Fieldhouse and have him hold this football team together under these conditions. I don't think this will faze Todd. I think he'll be able to overcome it. And once again, I think when you look at the offensive candidates that they hired, I think he was absolutely that they interviewed. He was the most qualified for the ones that were still in it.
So Jim might have done this as well if Nate Fieldhouse was made the head coach.
I would think so. I mean, I think the thing is that he got passed over for the head coaching job that he really wanted. So I don't think that he would have taken it lightly either if Nate had been hired. And then what are you going to do? Because now you've got an inexperienced head coach and you've lost your defensive coordinator potentially, and you still have to fill all of your coordinator positions with a guy who's been in the NFL for 2 years. So I just think that may have had something to do with it. If you knew you could have paired Jim Schwartz with Nate Fieldhouse, maybe that's a different situation. But they had to know that this was a potential outcome, and I think they did the right thing.
Then if they felt that Jim Schwartz may literally pack his boxes and leave, why did it feel like he was a prerequisite for any coach to take over this job that they had to hold on to him as DC?
Well, I don't think it was a prerequisite. I think it was an encouragement for the candidates to keep Jim Schwartz around. I don't think it was a prerequisite at all. I don't think that was it.
We kept getting things that it was. It was just a suggestion?
It was a suggestion. Maybe it was a strong suggestion, but I certainly don't think that Todd Monken took this job feeling like he had to keep Jim Schwartz. I think he took this job knowing that if he wanted to bring in his own defensive coordinator, that he could have done that. And I think that those were the conditions probably for anybody. Now, maybe the younger guys would not have not done that. Maybe they wouldn't have said, hey, no, I don't want that guy. Whereas Todd probably, if he didn't want Jim, would have said that he didn't. So, no, I don't think that it was a prerequisite for the job.
All right, Mary Kay, when we look at the finalists, and all along you had been talking about casting a wide net, so you were dead on, as accurate as anybody when it came to this coaching search. But in the end, the finalists are a 35-year-old, very inexperienced coach, a 59-year-old offensive coordinator, and another older defensive coordinator who had actually been a head coach before. Does that tell you that there was a division within the building in Berea when it came down to the finalists?
No, not necessarily. And we'll know more when we talk to everybody. But here's the thing to remember about Todd Monken. He was the first request that they made. So he was always very high on the list. He was the first request they made after, they interviewed Jim, their own guys, Jim and Tommy. But he was the very first request and one of the earliest guys in the building. And then he was the second interview after Jim Schwartz. So he was high on their list from minute one. People didn't see it because nobody thinks of Todd Monken in that way. But just because he hasn't gotten an opportunity doesn't mean he shouldn't have gotten an opportunity. He's a very accomplished offensive coach. At every turn, at every stop that he's been offensively, the offense lights up. So some people you don't get in that cycle. You don't get thought of that way. And then you start to get in your 50s, your late 50s, and people really don't think of you that way, especially if you haven't had a head coach gig before. Jim Schwartz wasn't thought of that way all of these years once he was done being head coach of the Lions. For the most part, he really hasn't been thought of as a head coach candidate in the last how many ever cycles. So age starts to work against you and things like that. But I do think that for what they were looking for and for what this team needs at this point in time, I just don't think this is a bad hire at all.
Mary Kay Cabot with us on the show. Well, I don't think he's a bad coach. I think that people are underwhelmed. They're very upset, but I don't think that Todd Monken is a bad coach. I do think it's a bit surprising. It is fun. I got to admit, it was funny. I had to look at Lima because you had said, well, nobody had thought of Todd Monken. Yeah, except for the Browns. So it does seem Browns. But let me ask you about Jim Schwartz. It's all over then, right? You really can't let him come back and be a coach. You can't make him come back and be a coach. I mean, he's already shown everybody what he thinks. And I think it's in the back of Browns fans' mind anytime something doesn't go right with the offense or they don't win a game that they know what Jim Schwartz thinks of what would be his new boss.
Well, here's the thing. It does seem like in some situations that you can't go home again, right? But I have seen stranger things happen. Now, will that happen in this case where Todd Monken and Jim Schwartz put their heads together and find a way to move forward and make this work? Right now, it doesn't seem like that's very plausible and that will happen. But did anybody think that Myles Garrett was coming back here after what we saw him do on Radio Row last year? Did that seem like you could go home again after all of that? Absolutely not. So I've seen emotions get out of control for people. I've seen people get mad and upset about things. I mean, this is a tough league full of people with egos and emotions and alpha dogs. And yeah, sometimes it seems like there is no turning back. But maybe there is a world in which